Oh, welcome, Cary. I'm Dr. Jamie Oskin, and this is one of my most favorite times ever, which is what I call a Hope for Health conversation. And it's a time when I can connect with a parent who can share their story and their testimony about, their experience with working together and how natural medicine has helped their child's life. So, what I'd like to just kind of open up with is, we're going to share a little bit about your son's story, but if you could tell us a little bit kind of like about what, life was like for you and for your son before you came to see me, and, what were his symptoms like and how did it impact your life? And, maybe how did that limit what he or the family was able to do, before you came to see us?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So, we had known for my son and had suspected for many years that he was somewhere on the autism spectrum. And we went through all of the testing and things. And the way that they did the PANDA assessments here, when he was 2 or 3, um, was that they always only did them on one with an adult. And my son is amazing with adults. He loves to interact with adults and can, carry on full-blown conversations with as many facts and details about space or the ocean or things that, you can imagine. And it's only when you witness behavior with peers, really, that some of the behaviors really start to surface. So side-by-side play, but not really interactive kind of play. Social anxiety in terms of as soon as noise levels start to ramp up and too much activity is happening, kind of a covering of the ears and needing to hide. And all of that is only witnessed when you see them in, close proximity with a lot of other kids. And so he kind of slipped through the cracks for a lot of years. And physiologically, he was born almost 6 weeks premature. And there was a lot of things that came with that. So he had, unclosed hernias and a lot of intestinal challenges, a lot of breathing challenges. And so through his life, we had done things like brain balance and trying to integrate some of those, I can't remember, those startle reflexes and things of that nature. And yet we were still seeing a lot of, intestinal discomfort, other what I would call kind of immune factors. So lots of ear infections as a really young kid. He even had some bouts with pneumonia and things in earlier years. So he'd had to have multiple surgeries, like having his adenoids removed, and a lot of things that just seemed unrelated until we came and spoke with you and recognized actually they're all related. It's all kind of like an onion. It's all layered together. And so we kept trying to address levels or sections of the onion, but not really understanding maybe what's at the core of things. So, high frustration levels with certain topics in school, a lot of emotion. We still talk about this. He's a big feeler. He gets all the big feels. So not just anger and frustration, but also, if you talk about like our dog who passed away when he was 4 or 5, if you bring up the dog, my son still cries because it's a lot of big feels around that. And so kind of dealing with big emotions and what those big emotions trigger and yeah, so there was a lot going on. And
There was a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, and you were like first referred to me by another client of mine, and when you first heard about homeopathy and the natural medicine, like, what was your impression? Did you think it was weird, or
Yeah. So my mom is a nutritionist, and so we have always believed in the power of nutrition and natural remedies, and had kind of hit a barrier or, um, we could no longer help support him in just what our knowledge space was. And so I'm a believer and never thought it was crazy. And also didn't know what to expect, in all honesty, just in terms of, because we've had him on supplements and things for most of his life. So not knowing what to expect a little bit, but in witnessing my friend who had referred me, kind of her daughter's growth and transformation, I was a optimistic believer, I guess I would say.
Um, well, that's great. And in terms of taking the medicines, is it difficult for him or pretty easy to administer the medicine?
Yeah, for him, especially since it's tasteless, I think if it had a funky taste to it, we might have a whole different conversation. But for him, it's just part of his routine. We call it the swish and hold medicine because he has to swish it in water and then hold it in his mouth. And it's part of his, after he eats breakfast and before he brushes his teeth, he has to do a swish and hold. So it has never been, we just created it as part of a routine. He's very routine oriented. So if there's a checklist that he can keep track of, it's an easy ask.
Great, great. So that's one of my favorite things about homeopathic medicine is that it's easy for kids to take, even really picky eaters or kids on
Yeah.
the spectrum who have sensory sensitivities. And great to hear that from a mom. But how has your experience been working together? And maybe you can share about like how that experience has been, and also now that like he's doing better, what is life like for your son and for your family now that some of the symptoms are improving?
Yeah. So the first meeting we had where you spent a very long time with me listening to the story of our son and how how life started and where he went from there. It was honestly very therapeutic. It felt like a counseling session because it wasn't, until our conversation, kind of looking back, how all of those layers were integrated together and how, when you're speaking with maybe an IEP specialist at school, they're really focused on the behavioral things, but don't necessarily want to hear, or their level of expertise isn't in the physiological things. And so not understanding how his intestinal challenges and things that he is dealing with physically is likely impacting all of the things around his concentration and ability to focus. And so it wasn't until our conversation that I was able to even see, oh my gosh, these things are all interconnected and interrelated. So that, I mean, it was literally like a counseling session for me. And I will never forget, and I know, we don't want to like oversell the effects of anything. But if you'll recall, he had a wart on his toe and had been struggling with a molluscum outbreak. And we'd done everything. I mean, I'd gotten the red stuff that you paint on the molluscum. We tried to do the home freeze of the wart kind of thing. And it'd been happening for about 6 months. And we'd exhausted, the home remedies that we were willing to do. And I wasn't quite willing to take him to the dermatologist and have them like freeze or burn off some of those molluscum spots. And within, I want to say it was the first 2 months of treatment, that wart on his toe just peeled off and nothing was left but beautiful, unblemished skin underneath. And each of the molluscum reabsorbed and were gone and never came back. I mean, and for me, that was one of the, okay, I was optimistic, but now I'm a firm believer. Like this is healing something in his immune system that even with all the other things we had been doing, we weren't able to touch.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember that so vividly, and our discussions about how everything is interconnected, and the way we see health and healing is all interconnected. Unlike a conventional doctor, who the skin doctor would see the skin symptoms, and the pediatrician or the psychiatrist would treat the mental emotional symptoms, et cetera, and then the gastroenterologist would treat the digestive symptoms. And it's one thing to say, okay, maybe there's less tantrums, but when we see skin rashes just like heal, it's pretty powerful to say that the immune system is healthy and he's healthier as a whole person. But if you don't mind indulging us, could you tell a little bit of the story also about his bowel movements, his poops? Because I think this was also, when we talk about holistic healing, so interconnected in your son's healing path. And he had kind of lifetime bowel issues. I'll let you kind of like take it over and tell kind of like that story and where those are at now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, So he was a kid that suffered from encopresis as a toddler from withholding. The school we were in when he was 2 kind of forced it in a way. You had to be potty trained by a certain age, and it was probably before he was developmentally ready. Hindsight's always 2020. Had we known the impact over a lifetime that would have had, we probably would have pulled him from the school, right? But we struggled with that. And at the time, his doctor put him on Miralax. And so, at 2.5, 2, he was on Miralax, and they kept him on Miralax until he was, well, we started when he was around 10. We decided, he was having such incontinence problems. And we recognized we're not sure he understands what it feels like to have to use the bathroom, because Miralax does its job very well. It makes it, so that it's very liquidy, right? It absorbs all the liquid, and your body doesn't even have to work in a way to go to the restroom. But because of that, I don't think he developed the brain body connection of what it feels like to actually have to go to the bathroom. And so we started weaning him off the Miralax, and we had been, I think we were only about maybe 1 month, and it took 9 months. I mean, we did it very, very, very slowly. And even with that, there was a lot of struggle and pain, missed days of school, because he would get so backed up and wasn't able to tell until he got ill, until he actually felt the pain in his body and would sometimes even throw up because those muscles just weren't there. And we were about a month being completely off Miralax when we started. And so it has taken time. This is one of those things that was very slow, but being here now and being able to look back over the past 9 months or so, he has built that muscle connection. He's I'm going to get choked up. We haven't had to miss any school. So it's amazing, honestly. I mean, this is a decade of him struggling. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And, powerful how, the gut brain connection and healing as a whole person. And, there's so much that has been beautiful to observe in your son's healing journey with, being high functioning on the spectrum, and the anxiety and the fears and the emotional meltdowns, the constipation, the warts, the molluscum, sensory sensitivities. But there's one more that I wanted to touch on, which has been really remarkable, which is his handwriting, because your son had something called dysgraphia, and in particular, a type of dysgraphia. Dysgraphia means like a graphia to write. So it's he couldn't like, there was like kind of a visual motor neuron deficit where he couldn't really perceive the spacing, and so he would write literally on top of all the letters on top of each other, and it wasn't legible. And he's been through a lot of therapy for that, like OT and handwriting therapy and that kind of thing. And maybe if you could describe like what his handwriting was like before and where it's at now, just in, I guess, maybe the 9 months of working together.
Yeah. So they noticed, and we didn't have a word for it until actually fairly recently, because he's not dyslexic. So he sees letters, he reads just fine. He's actually a phenomenal reader. But what we noticed was, even in drawing, and I mean, as back as early as I can remember, if you asked him to draw a stick figure, it would be head, body, arms, everything kind of all on top of itself. It's like he couldn't orient in space on a blank page. And with writing, they tried everything from, write a word and then put your finger and write next to your finger to get the space between the letters. And he would get so frustrated because he understood the mechanics of it. He understood that there should be space between the letters. He understood that some letters are capital and some are lowercase, but trying to replicate that for himself was literally impossible. And yes, like you said, I mean, he's had OT and physical therapy and special help with writing since kindergarten, trying to help with this. And this year was the first year So even during like statewide testing and things, they would accommodate him and allow him to verbalize out loud, and then a teacher would write down, especially in like the reading comprehension portion things. But this was the first year he was actually able to submit his own writing. I'm gonna get choked up again. It's still, it's still a little bit of a challenge. It will probably be, continue to be a challenge just in terms of its continual growth, but it is actually legible. His teachers are able to evaluate, not just whether something is written well, but whether his comprehension or the writing shows that he's actually comprehending the material. Whereas before there was questions of, we know that he reads well, and when he verbalizes, we think he's understanding the content, but because we can't evaluate his writing, we don't know if he's actually comprehending. And so being able to demonstrate, no, he's actually comprehending at a very high level. It was just this mechanics of writing. And it translates to math too, because if you think of especially more advanced math where you're having to stack digits to be able to carry numbers and things in like double digit multiplication. If you can't get things to line up visually to understand which digits you're working on, how can you even demonstrate that you understand what's happening logically? So math has continued to be a challenge. What we've actually discovered is that he has a nearly eidetic memory. And so for many years, he fooled us all into he's memorized the timetables, he memorizes a lot of addition and subtraction facts, but he never actually got the mechanics. He just memorized. And so same thing with reading. So he's been able to participate in poetry competitions and things because it's all sheer memorization. But when it comes to getting that on, his own thoughts onto a page, it's been a real challenge. And so the fact that this year his writing, he no longer has to put his finger between words, that the spacing is kind of revealing itself to him in a new way, has been a huge, huge benefit.
Wow. Wow. I so appreciate you taking the time to share your story of your son's healing and his progress. I know we still have work to do. We still have more progress to make, but it's just been such a joy to see him kind of come into himself and flourish. And this is the most fun part of my job, is to kind of I get so busy in my day going from one person to the next, but like every once in a while taking a moment to breathe and actually like have gratitude and look back at it like, wow, look, this is how we're helping. And if you had any advice, or what would you say to other parents who are kind of on the fence or considering trying homeopathy? Because I know homeopathy is different and it sounds weird, and it's not conventional medicine. And do you have any advice for other parents?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first off, why not, right? Like it is one of the most powerful things you can try. And we are so accustomed in today's society to want like the magic pill that works instantly, right? Like I want immediate solution now. And this is the magic pill, but it's going to work incrementally and it's going to take a lot of time. And it's, in our monthly calls, it's to your point, the moment when you can stop and pause and reflect a little bit and recognize, oh my gosh, this journey is a journey of 1,000 steps, but it's only when you pause long enough to look back and realize we've advanced, we've taken 10 steps, and sometimes there's a couple steps back, but overall it is forward momentum and it is worth the journey.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your testimony and your story. And I'm just so grateful for you taking that time. And, I hope this offers other parents hope, and that eventually more kids will actually get help on their health journey as a result. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you have done for us.
You're welcome.